Today I'm reacting to your Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania Hot Takes. Hot Takes is a weekly video series where I give you all a platform to be able to voice your thoughts, whether they're good thoughts, bad thoughts, or everything in between about the world of professional wrestling. So if you'd like to be featured in the next episode of Hot Takes, make sure that you're following me on X because I ask for your hot takes there after every episode of Raw, SmackDown, and every single WWE Premium Live event. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, ring the bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I know that you're going to fall in love with this YouTube channel because we always upload daily wrestling content. Now, if you are looking for my full review of this particular episode of Monday Night Raw, all 45 minutes are already up and available on the Patreon with footage so that you can see exactly what it is that I'm talking about frame by frame. Over there, we upload the Raw review, SmackDown review, and a whole bunch of extra content that never gets uploaded here to YouTube. So go check it out. That's enough. Let's read your stupid shit. For the first time in company history, we are about to witness a heel John Cena versus a babyface Randy Orton. I have a feeling that the way that Cena is going to win the match is by slapping the ref in the face, just like Randy did during one of their many matches in the 2010s as payback to Randy. I'm personally pleasantly surprised that they're already running with John Cena versus Randy Orton this early into the John Cena retirement tour, because I figured that we would eventually get this matchup, but I thought it would be much deeper into the retirement tour. In fact, I thought that Randy Orton was probably the odds-on favorite to be the guy to actually retire John Cena. But here we are. It's 2025 and they're running John Cena versus Randy Orton again. And they've ran this feud an infinite amount of times in the 2000s and in the 2010s, and yet it still feels new and fresh because the context has been completely turned upside down with a babyface Randy Orton and a heel John Cena. If you told me 15 years ago that, hey, kid, in 2025, we're gonna run John Cena as a heel and Randy Orton as a babyface, I would literally laugh in your face. Funnily enough, I think that John Cena versus Randy Orton, whether it's intentional or unintentional, is a very well-timed and needed feud, because right now, even though Las Vegas was a bit of a weird crowd with not necessarily reacting the way that they're probably supposed to certain acts in the company, I do think that because nostalgia is such a powerful drug that John Cena is going to get cheered wherever it is that he goes. And in my opinion, right now, the way to make sure that Cena gets booed, the way to fight back against nostalgia is with more nostalgia. And it doesn't get more nostalgic than John Cena versus Randy Orton again, except this time, Randy's the good guy and going into a hometown PLE title opportunity in St. Louis. John Cena will be booed in this feud, and it's something that we need. John Cena needs to be booed. Becky is not a heel. She will never be a heel. They tried to turn her heel years ago against Charlotte, and it failed miserably, and the same thing happened tonight. The fans were literally chanting Becky's name after she attacked Lyra. She will never be a heel. I don't agree with you. I do think that the context is different with somebody like a Lyra Valkyria that is respected and liked by the fans versus Charlotte that is loathed and annoys fans. Charlotte has been public enemy number one with fans for a really long time, dating back to when Becky Lynch turned heel on Charlotte, which is why so many people cheered for it. Now, that heel turn against Charlotte ended up eventually turning Becky Lynch into the man, which made her into the most popular act in the WWE. But I think that things now can be different. I think that there is a little bit of resentment towards the likes of Becky Lynch these days, especially by online fans, because they feel like she's taking opportunities away from others. So Becky Lynch in 2025 trying to upstage and upstart in Lyra Valkyria might be the way to actually get Becky Lynch booed across the world. Like I said, I do understand where you're coming from because in the history of Becky Lynch heel turns, for the most part, the fans have still just wanted to cheer her on. But I think that now they might have the right timing and the right context to actually get a heel Becky Lynch that people can actually boo. And I know that you mentioned the example of the Las Vegas crowd, but as I've already mentioned with John Cena, this is a weird crowd. The Raw After Mania crowd is the hijack crowd, the crowd that doesn't react how WWE wants crowd to react. I think that we'll know a little bit better once the WWE goes back out on tour outside of Las Vegas to the more traditional crowd all over the United States. If it's been 4 weeks and they're still rooting for Becky Lynch to beat the crap out of Lyra Valkyria, then we can come back here and just completely tell me I'm wrong. But I think we need some time to really let things settle. Hear me out. Breaker, Rollins, Heyman, Theory, Evolution 2.0. The Heyman and Seth Rollins stuff alongside now Braun Breaker is fantastic. I feel like this is such a breath of fresh air to the main event scene. This feels like a fresh coat of paint after a garbage ass paint job that was the night 2 ending of WrestleMania 41. Here we are. These guys have fundamentally changed and have moved mountains in the main event scene. Braun Breaker has not just been catapulted from the mid-card to the main event, but beyond the main event. He's on top of the main event because he is now working alongside the biggest names in the industry in Seth Rollins, Paul Heyman, and of course now feuding with CM Punk and Roman Reigns, names that are amongst the pantheon of professional wrestling main eventers. So to now have Braun Breaker in that equation, to me, is such a seal of approval from the WWE, a vote of confidence that Braun Breaker is going to be the next face of the WWE. Do not be surprised if this guy is main eventing WrestleMania as early as WrestleMania 42. And there are a lot of parallels with what we're seeing here so far with the building of this new faction and when Evolution was being formed. Seth Rollins being the mentor, the guy that's at the top of the game, at the top of the mountain, being Triple H like he was back in 2003. We have Paul Heyman kind of playing that Ric Flair role, even though Ric Flair did some in-ring stuff. Braun Breaker, you could say he's Batista or Randy Orton, because he can be Batista because of like the muscle and strength, or be Randy Orton because Randy Orton was also a legacy superstar, a third generation superstar, much like Braun Breaker is as well. But it does kind of feel, especially after Seth Rollins said that the future of the WWE goes through him, it does feel like there's got to be more to the future than just Braun Breaker, which is why so many people are theorizing, no pun intended, as to who could be the next member here. And I think that Austin Theory is an excellent choice. I think Theory is an excellent choice because very similarly to Batista and Randy Orton, when the Evolution was originally formed, they were just sort of treading water. They were basically kind of nobodies, but then they just got to be propelled to the main event scene under the tutelage of Triple H and Ric Flair. And I think that somebody that has the potential to reach that level, to be able to grab the brass ring, is somebody that's also treading water in Austin Theory. I think it's a great choice. I'm not saying it's the only choice, but I think it's a good one. The third member to join Paul Heyman, Ethan Page, I think would also be an excellent choice as well. Another way of cementing the future of the WWE, and what better way to cement the future than to literally grab somebody that is in the promotion that signifies the future of the business in NXT. Ethan Page would also be an excellent choice here, a choice that I would absolutely love. Again, there are a lot of names being thrown out there. We've talked about Theory, Ethan Page. People are talking about maybe Trick Williams, Carmelo Hayes kind of fits the bill, Bronson Reed potentially. There are names that could be jammed into this faction that pretty much everyone will universally love. And I do think that Ethan Page fits the mold as well. While Raw after WrestleMania was better than WrestleMania itself, the look from Sami against Jay while yeeting was heart in the mouth moment. A lot of people are complaining about the 20-minute yeeting celebration from Jey Uso. First of all, I actually think that this was an appropriate yeeting celebration. Compare it to that one yeeting celebration that he did after Saturday night's main event, after he lost to Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship, and he went out there and celebrated like he just won the damn thing. At least here, he actually won the damn thing. So I appreciated the yeeting celebration. But when Sami Zayn's music hit, I immediately wanted these guys to feud, but I didn't know how I wanted it. I didn't know if I wanted Sami Zayn to turn heel right then and there, or maybe we were going to have babyface versus babyface. All I know is that Sami Zayn to me is the best available option for Jey Uso right now. But you're right. When they were both yeeting and Sami Zayn stopped yeeting a little bit early and just started staring at Jey Uso as Jey Uso was yeeting, I thought for a second, that's it, brothers. We're about to see maybe the most heartbreaking heel turn in quite some time. But no, they just continued yeeting. And that to me just demonstrate how much on like the emotional string these guys currently have us, because Sami Zayn didn't have to do or say anything. He just had to look at Jey Uso and all of us immediately, like you, had the heart feeling in our throats. This was the greatest Raw after WrestleMania. If you would have ever told me that we would get Cena versus Orton feud again, but this time Randy Orton as a babyface and Cena as the heel, I would not believe it. This episode of Raw was one of the best that we've seen in a while. Raw after WrestleMania, to me at this point, is like a fantasy. It's this thing that used to be awesome and we hope is always awesome, but it pretty much always disappoints. At least it's been a disappointing night for the past, what feels like 10, 12 years at this point. I feel like the last truly fantastic Raw after WrestleMania was Raw after WrestleMania 28, when we had the return debut of Brock Lesnar. Don't even compare it to last year's, because last year's was one of the worst Raw after WrestleManias, after we had to endure a live sex celebration between Cody Rhodes and The Rock in the ring for like an hour. But this Raw after WrestleMania was truly just immaculate. Did it have a return on the level of Brock Lesnar? No, I don't think so, but it had so many individual moments that we'll continue to talk more about in this video, that I think collectively makes it one of, if not the best Raw after WrestleMania that I've seen. At the very least, the most consistently good Raw after WrestleMania. I can see this being the next big faction of the WWE after the Bloodline, with Paul Heyman at the helm once again. The storylines with this group of people are mouth-watering prospects. This is it. This is the next big faction after the Bloodline. I think that you nailed nailed it on the head. This is going to be a faction that I think will be talked about for the next 20 years. This is going to be a faction that when Braun Breaker, years and years and years from now, when he gets inducted into the Hall of Fame, we're going to be calling back to this very night at the formation of this faction. When we inevitably see Seth Rollins versus Braun Breaker in the main event of WrestleMania, you bet your ass this is going to happen. We're going to harken back to this very moment right here. This is the moment that is going to be the launching pad of Braun Breaker for his superstardom for the next literally 20 years. I hope we don't lose him to like Hollywood or anything like that, because Braun Breaker being one of the cornerstones of the WWE until he's in his late 40s is a very realistic thing. Like, I genuinely see Braun Breaker being somebody that maybe even breaks Roman Reigns' record for the most amount of WrestleMania main events with how catapulted this guy has already been. But the faction itself already just screams money, with Paul Heyman at the helm and the possibility of other people potentially being involved in this faction. This is going to be the driving force for WWE narratives for the next several years, not the next several months, because John Cena only has about 7 months left. That'll be a driving force until for the rest of 2025. But this right here, this is what narratives will be built around for the next years. This might very well be the best Monday Night Raw of this year. All of these things happening in just one single episode is mind-boggling. Okay, so let's see what you've highlighted here. You've got John Cena and Randy Orton. We've talked about that. That's fantastic. Stephanie freaking Vaquer from NXT making her main roster debut in a fantastic match with Io Sky. That melted my face, because these are literally my 1-2 favorite women's wrestlers on the planet right now. We'll talk more about this a little bit later. We had Julia and Roxanne Perez, and honestly, I think this is a lot deeper than just, hey, you know what, we're just showcasing some members of NXT. I think that they're teasing the return of WWE Evolution, the all-women's pay-per-view that's being heavily teased for June, and I think this was the start of it, especially after that freaking stare down between Julia and Rhea Ripley. You had the Jey Uso celebration, which I thought was a sneaky good segment. You have Gunther choking out commentary, taking out Pat McAfee. That was crazy. And of course, what we've already talked about, the formation of the new main event faction between Braun Breaker, Seth Rollins, and Paul Heyman. You don't even have the return of Rusev here, which is another monumental thing that happened on Monday Night Raw that we'll talk a little bit more about. But yeah, this was a very complete Monday Night Raw. In terms of Raw after Manias, it's up there amongst the best, but in terms of just general Monday Night Raws, this thing, I don't see a better Monday Night Raw this year happening. The John Cena / Randy storyline is the least interesting of everything coming out of Monday Night Raw. I already know that there will be a couple of good promos, and eventually Randy will lose. It's filler leading up to the big feuds towards the end of Cena's retirement tour. My friend, you don't know ball. You are calling a Randy Orton John Cena feud filler? In what fucking world does that make any sense? I don't think that John Cena is this unbeatable, unstoppable champion. I think that Randy Orton could very well dethrone Cena, maybe as early as Backlash. Who the hell knows? Randy Orton is a guy that's full-time there every week. John Cena is not. Simply because of that reason, I think Randy Orton could very well just take that title off of Cena right away. This isn't like last year where we had The Rock come out and tease Cody Rhodes versus The Rock a year down the line, thus making everything that Cody Rhodes did up until he got to The Rock, which he never did, feel completely like filler. Every feud that John Cena has right now means that the title's on the line. The title can change. And you want to sit here and tell me that John Cena versus Randy Orton is filler? No, I'm not accepting that. What was the point of taking the belts off of Liv and Raquel less than 24 hours later? If you were going to do the Becky turn, then it and the return should have both been on Monday. Bayley got screwed for nothing. I feel you, but I mean, if I'm being WWE and I'm trying to explain my reasoning is, well, I wanted the big Becky Lynch pop. I feel like that's literally the reason. They wanted the big Becky Lynch pop of her returning and the big pop of Becky Lynch winning a championship. I literally think that is the only reason. I do feel like Becky's reason for turning heel does hit a little bit harder with her losing a championship as opposed to losing in the attempt of winning a championship. Again, I'm just trying to explain. I'm not trying to justify it, because at the end of the day, I don't think that any of this was worth screwing over Bayley. It just doesn't feel right what they did with Bayley. Okay, great. Rusev is back. He looks amazing, but coming out to beat up Alpha Academy, why not also beat the New Day? I'm excited for Rusev though. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. This was a little bit of a red flag. Excited for Rusev just like you. Hell yeah, he looks like $1 million. And there are so many matches that I want to see Rusev have in 2025 with this bolstered WWE roster. However, everyone and their dog, even me at this point, we've all beaten up Alpha Academy. There's nothing special about beating up Alpha Academy. So Rusev coming out there and doing the thing that literally everyone has already done on the roster doesn't really make Rusev feel dangerous or scary in any capacity. facility. This was also a weird place to debut him, like trying to destroy a member of the tag team division when Rusev himself isn't gonna be in the tag team division. To me, this didn't land. To me, this screamed a low effort creative writing for his debut. And if they're already being this, let's face it, poorly creative with his debut, I'm kind of concerned about his creative for his actual return run. Based on just the return and what they booked for him, to me, I think of the ceiling of somebody like Andrade, and that's not okay. Think about it, had Rusev come back and say beat up Sheamus. That would have been kind of hype. But beating up Tozawa and Otis, at this point, everyone's done it. Finn should have turned on Dom tonight. It's starting to feel like they're dragging it out too long. I'm excited that JD is back, but I think it could have been done differently, maybe with JD turning on Judgment Day alongside Finn. So in the lead up to WrestleMania, the storyline was basically Finn Balor is the leader of the Judgment Day and that they should do what Finn Balor does because Finn Balor knows how to win. But now all of this has been completely turned on its head because Finn Balor is one of the few members of the Judgment Day that doesn't have gold. So now we need to see the story of what Finn Balor behaves like in a world where he's not the one calling the shots, Dominic Mysterio is. And I want them to explore that before they fully have Finn turn on Dominic or vice versa. I do kind of foresee a world where we're going to get a Judgment Day Civil War. Not like all of Judgment Day fighting together, but more so like inward family fighting where the ones that have the halves, the ones that have titles like Liv, Raquel, and Dom are going to be, I guess, on the opposite end of the clubhouse versus the have-nots, Carlito, JD, and Finn Balor. There could be arguments between them back and forth, arguments that could lead to a match between Finn Balor and Dominic Mysterio. I do want this story to develop, so I'm actually personally glad that they didn't have Finn Balor turn on Dominic this quickly. We are definitely getting this match at Backlash, CM Punk and Roman Reigns versus Seth and Braun. I hope so, and I want to harken back to something very similar that happened at last year's Backlash. Remember when the new bloodline was formed and we had the debut of Tama Tonga, and it was Tama Tonga and Solo Sikoa versus Randy Orton and Kevin Owens? And what happened in that match? We had the debut of another member of the bloodline. Was it Botch? Yeah, it was Botchalo at the end of the day. So maybe this could be where they debut that brand new member to fully complete this brand new faction, because me alongside pretty much most of the world, we want to see one more person being added. Is it crazy to think Karrion Kross could take the title off of Jey Uso? Kross is gaining traction and is an excellent storyteller who just started growing on me as well as the crowd. Could be an interesting twist. I think you're kind of hitting a home run here. I feel like Karrion Kross is an excellent option to be elevated to go after the World Heavyweight title, especially with how over he's gotten over the last couple of weeks. Karrion Kross is an excellent storyteller. Is he the greatest in-ring magician of all time? No, but Jey Uso thrives best under good storytelling, and I feel like Karrion Kross could take Jey Uso through a wild roller coaster of emotions of a storyline that everyone could get invested in, especially if Sami Zayn does turn on Jey Uso, because Karrion Kross was kind of the first one speaking into Sami Zayn's ear. Maybe that's the catalyst to bring Karrion Kross into this storyline and maybe eventually be the one to dethrone Jey Uso. I don't hate this. Stephanie Vaquer and Io Sky will feed families for generations. That match was amazing, and it's very clear that the way that it ended, WWE doesn't want to damage Vaquer's image by eating a loss to Io, even when she's an NXT star. Oh, this is just so true, man. Their match was fantastic, and it was literally just a taste. If you give these women proper time, an actual PLE environment, something on the line, they could legitimately have such a good match that it could implode time and space as you know it. I'm also glad that they had a shenanigans finish with people getting involved, because neither of them could really afford to take a loss right now. Io Sky literally just retained in the biggest match of her entire career against two of the biggest stars that the WWE has, and Stephanie Vaquer literally just has a championship match today as of the recording of this video. So I'm glad that it ended the way that it ended, even though it left some people feeling like they didn't quite reach their conclusion. But this was just an appetizer of what it could eventually be. I think Gunther's breakdown is the start of his feud to come with Goldberg. Bro, I didn't even think about this until you brought it up. I think that you might have found an early crumb trail that will eventually lead us to Gunther versus Goldberg. We've had it before where Goldberg has come into a storyline to stop the big bullies, and right now, who's the biggest bully in the WWE? It's Gunther choking out non-competitors like Michael Cole, and of course, actually choking out Pat McAfee. And it was Michael Cole that said, I'm not gonna let a big bully stop me from doing my job on WrestleMania weekend. So they're already calling Gunther a big bully, and Goldberg has traditionally been the guy to stomp out bullies. So shit, yeah, like I said, you might be onto something real early on here. If you end up being right, you called it first. You're the first person I'm seeing call this out. You can see the absolute disbelief in Santi's face when he thought Paul Heyman delivered the nastiest spear to Roman. Okay, listen, upon watching it back, it was a little bit ridiculous, but in that split second when that spear happened with the hooded figure, I'm like, damn, that was the nastiest spear that Paul Heyman has ever delivered. I thought it was Paul Heyman for like a split second. Anyone else feel like, in a way, this was night 3 of WrestleMania? So many debuts, returns, shocking moments, so many needle-moving things all happening tonight. It certainly felt that way, and to me, it was nice to have this night immediately following what was such a downer of an ending to WrestleMania 41. I haven't felt this down coming off the back of a WrestleMania in a really long time. In fact, I forgot what it felt to feel disappointed after a WrestleMania. So I'm glad that WWE picked us right back up and made us once again be in love with professional wrestling after John Cena damn nearly killed it. I just hope Rusev doesn't become the next Andrade or Wyatt Six with badass returns, but ultimately no payoff or feuds. Until I see otherwise, I will not put Rusev's ceiling higher than Andrade. I can't in good conscience. I would love to see Rusev against so many people, namely Gunther. Bronson Reed would be awesome. Maybe even like the new generation of superstars that we haven't seen him against, like the likes of Braun Breaker. There's so many potential gem matchups for Rusev, but listen, the way that they debuted him, I'm more pessimistic than optimistic right now, sadly. All right, folks, thank you so much for watching this episode of Hot Takes. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care. Goodbye. Get out of here.